We've all been there, I think. You know that feeling when you're just drowning in information?
No, absolutely.
Maybe it's for work, a big project, or you're trying a new hobby, or even just trying to keep up with the news. It can feel, well, overwhelming.
Like trying to drink from a fire hose sometimes. There's just so much coming at us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And sorting through it, figuring out what's important, how to actually use it, that's tough.
Which is really why we do this deep dive, right? To try and cut through some of that noise.
Precisely. We act as your filter, your guides, trying to pull out the core insights. And for today's dive, you brought us some really fascinating research.
I did. It's a study looking into how we learn, specifically focusing on tools meant to help us monitor our own learning.
Right. It's got one of those very descriptive academic titles, like Let Learners Monitor the Learning Content and Their Learning Behavior, something like that.
That's the one. A meta-analysis on the effectiveness of tools to foster monitoring.
Aha!
It's a bit of a mouthful, yeah.
But it gets straight to the point. Are things like learning journals, portfolios, using rubrics, do they actually work?
And this isn't just someone's opinion. It's a meta-analysis. So they've combined the results of, let me see, 32 different studies.
Wow. Okay. So a lot of data behind this.
Yeah, almost 3,500 participants across those studies. They're really trying to see if there's a pattern, if these tools consistently make a difference.
So our mission today essentially is to unpack this for our listeners. Do these tools help us learn better, perform better, stay motivated, and crucially, what makes them work if they do?
Exactly. And it all ties into this concept called self-regulated learning, or SRL.
SRL. Okay.
Yep.
Break that down a bit.
Well, basically, it's about being the driver of your own learning. It involves planning what you need to do, keeping track of your progress and understanding, and then looking back, evaluating how well you actually learned it and what you could do differently next time.
So it's active, not passive. You're involved in managing the whole process.
Right. But the thing is, as the study points out, many people aren't naturally great at this.
Yeah, I can see that. It takes effort, awareness.
Exactly. A lot of learners struggle with setting goals, or knowing if they really understand something, or changing their study habits when they're stuck.
And that's where these monitoring tools are supposed to come in, like little helpers.
That's the idea. They're designed to support that self-regulation process.
Okay. So the big question we're tackling today is, do these helpers actually help? Can using a learning journal or a rubric genuinely improve your learning? And if yes, what's the secret sauce? What makes one approach better than another?
Let's dive into what this meta-analysis found, because they did find some clear patterns.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, first off, the headline finding. Overall, using these monitoring tools does have a positive effect on academic achievement. They classed it as moderate.
Moderate positive effect. So statistically significant, noticeable, but maybe not life-changing on its own.
Pretty much. It suggests that, yes, actively monitoring your learning generally helps you perform better. It's a real boost.
Okay, that's good to know. What about the other aspects, like actually becoming better at self-regulating or staying motivated?
Right. The effects there were smaller, but still positive.
Smaller. Yeah.
Yeah. So using the tools seems to nudge people towards better self-regulation habits and keeps them a bit more motivated, but the biggest impact was on actual grades or performance scores.
Interesting. So it helps you get the result maybe more than it transforms your underlying learning habits or your enthusiasm, relatively speaking.
That seems to be what the overall numbers suggest, yes. But it gets more nuanced when you look deeper.
Ah, okay. Because they didn't just stop at tools are good, right? They looked at different kinds of tools and how they were used.
Exactly. One key distinction was between cognitive monitoring and metacognitive monitoring.
Cognitive versus metacognitive. Let's unpack that. Cognitive is checking if you understand the material.
Right. Like, do I get this concept? Metacognitive is thinking about your thinking.
Ah, okay. Like, how am I learning this? Is this strategy working for me? Why did I find that part difficult?
Precisely. And the analysis found that tools encouraging that metacognitive reflection tended to be more effective overall.
That makes a lot of sense, actually. It's not just about the what, but the how of your learning.
Yeah. Simply summarizing content might be less useful than reflecting on why something was confusing or what strategy helped you finally understand it.
So a learning journal where you ask yourself those kinds of reflective questions would likely be better.
The data points that way, yes. That self-awareness about your process seems really key.
Okay, what else did they find? You mentioned the focus of the tools.
Yes. They looked at whether the tools focused mainly on the learning content or on the learning behavior, things like study habits, time management, effort,
Or both.
or both. And this was interesting too. Tools that prompted learners to monitor both the content and their behavior showed the biggest positive effects on achievement and on developing self-regulated learning skills.
Yeah.
Okay, so looking at the what and the how together seems to be the sweet spot for performance and skill development.
It seems so. It's like checking both the map, the content, and how you're driving your behavior and strategies.
That's a great analogy. But didn't you say motivation was a bit different?
I did. Good catch. For motivation, tools that focus primarily on the learning content actually showed a stronger positive effect.
Really? Why would that be?
The researchers speculated a bit. Maybe focusing too much on your behavior, tracking hours, planning schedules can sometimes feel like extra work, a bit tedious,
Yeah, it could feel like more pressure, maybe less fun.
possibly.
Yeah.
Whereas directly engaging with the material, seeing your understanding grow,
Mm.
that can be inherently motivating in itself.
So if you want better grades and skills, focus on both content and behavior. If you just need a motivation boost, maybe focus more directly on the content itself.
That could be a practical takeaway based on these findings. It depends on the goal.
Fascinating. Okay, what about how long people use these tools? I assume longer is better, right? More practice.
You'd think so. That was my assumption too. But the meta-analysis actually found, well, the opposite.
Wait, really? Shorter use was more effective?
It seems that way, yes. Shorter interventions tended to show larger effects than longer ones.
Huh.
Any ideas why? Again, the researchers think it might come back to motivation and effort. Maybe the novelty wears off or it just becomes too much of a chore over, say, a whole semester.
So a focused, perhaps intense period of self-monitoring might be more impactful than trying to keep it up indefinitely.
That's certainly what this suggests. Quality over quantity, perhaps, or at least bursts of quality.
That's a really useful insight. Don't feel like you have to commit to a year-long learning journal right away.
Exactly. A shorter focused period could be the way to go.
Okay, so we have type, focus, duration. What about feedback? Does getting feedback on your journal entries or your portfolio matter?
Absolutely. Feedback is almost always important in learning. And yes, they looked at this specifically teacher feedback on the monitoring tool entries.
Did it help?
It did. Especially for academic achievement, getting feedback provided a significant boost.
But I feel like there's a but coming.
There is a bit of nuance, yes. The key wasn't just getting feedback, but getting feedback that you could act on.
Okay. So not just good job or you missed this, but something more constructive.
Even more than that, the most effective feedback loops were those where the learner had a chance to actually revise their work. The monitored work, the journal entry, whatever it was, based on the feedback they received.
So it closes the loop. You monitor, you get feedback, you revise, you learn from the revision.
Precisely. That opportunity to apply the feedback seems crucial for translating it into better performance. It makes the monitoring part of an active improvement cycle.
That makes total sense. Actionable feedback leading to revision. Got it. Now, what about age? Does this work for kids, teens, adults?
That's always a critical question with learning research, and largely the answer here seems to be yes.
So beneficial across the board.
They didn't find significant differences in the overall effectiveness based on age group, from elementary school up through higher education. These tools seem potentially useful for most learners.
Okay.
However, there was a little hint that the motivational effects might be slightly stronger for younger learners.
Interesting. Maybe it feels newer or more engaging for them, or perhaps older students have other competing motivators.
Could be. It wasn't a huge difference, but a slight trend worth noting. The core benefits for achievement seem pretty consistent, though.
Okay, wow. We've covered a lot of ground from this one meta-analysis. Let's try and boil it down to the key takeaways for everyone listening.
Sounds good? Let's summarize.
All right, first, using monitoring tools, generally speaking, it works. Moderate positive effect on grades, smaller positive effects on your learning skills and motivation. Worth doing.
Second, think about how you're monitoring. Aim for metacognitive reflection, thinking about your thinking process, not just summarizing content. That seems to pack more punch.
Third, consider the focus. For the biggest gains in achievement and learning skills, try tools that cover both the content and your learning behaviors. But if motivation is the main goal, focusing just on the content might be slightly better.
Fourth, don't necessarily think longer is better. Shorter, focused periods of using these tools might actually be more effective, maybe due to maintaining that initial motivation and focus.
Fifth, feedback helps. especially for achievement, if it's actionable. The real magic happens when you get feedback and then have a chance to revise your work based on it.
And sixth, these tools seem broadly useful across different ages, even if the motivational kick might vary slightly.
Okay, that's a great summary. So, based on all that, here's something for our listeners to chew on. A provocative thought, if you will.
Go for it.
Given what we've just discussed, how could you personally bring some simple self-monitoring into how you learn or process information?
Yeah, it doesn't have to be complicated, does it?
Not at all. Just keeping a really basic learning journal for, say, 2 weeks when you're learning something new, could that help you tune into your own understanding, figure out what strategies work best for you?
Maybe just noting down what was easy today, what
Yeah,
was hard, what did I try when I got stuck.
exactly. It's about experimenting, finding a small practice that raises your awareness and maybe makes your learning a bit more efficient, a bit more effective in the long run.
It's about becoming a more conscious learner. And while this meta-analysis gives us some really solid pointers, learning is complex, isn't it?
For sure. This field is always evolving. There's always more to learn about learning.
So true.
Yeah.
We definitely encourage listeners to think about their own experiences. What works for you when it comes to monitoring your learning? Do you have other questions this sparked? Let us know. It might guide where we dive next.
Absolutely. Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into self-monitoring tools. Hopefully it's given you some food for thought and maybe a practical idea or two to try out.
Until next time, keep exploring.
Keep learning.